Hello, welcome to a presentation on the theory of Rasa. In an interface with Professor Sheldon Pollock of Columbia University, Professor M.V. Narayanan of the University of Calicut brought up one of Pollock's observations that was mentioned in his paper. In another 15 to 20 years, one has to go to Europe to understand Indian classics. Though there is a bit of exaggeration in it, the fact that Indians lose charm in what is called Indian aesthetics is a reality. The rejection of Eastern aesthetic theories in the East is not intentional, but on the assumption that these Eastern aesthetic theories are old and so outdated. For that, we cannot blame Indians. So, what we have to do is to revive the Indian classical concepts to demonstrate the idea that Indian classical theories on aesthetics, especially the theory of Rasa, is a classic which is evergreen. This is the context where we begin our lecture. And when we begin with Rasa, and when I pronounce the word rasam, you can remember a taste. You can remember the taste of curry that we drink or we take with rice in any sumptuous meal. So even if you take the word rasam literally, it is a term that stretches the meaning from a food item through taste, through flavor, through beauty, through joy and the like. So it connects both with the content, I mean the item produced, and the individual appreciation or the perception. And even the consideration of the theory of Rasa, we can understand that it is a theory that joins the artistic part, that is the production part, and the aesthetic part or the reception part. Probably the French indulgist Louis Renault's grievance that we lack a word that links the aesthetic and artistic is resolved with the idea and the name Rasa, that stands for aesthetic emotion. Rasa joins Kavi, the creator, and Sahridaya, the informed appreciator. Bharata Muni's Natyashastra built a framework for producing and effecting Rasa by proposing Rasa Sutra, and this is Bharata Muni's maxim: Vibhava Anubhava Vyabhichari Samyogat Rasa Nishpati. It goes as in the way of a mathematical equation. The simplest of the meaning of this is Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava conjoins to form Rasa. As I told you earlier, Rasa is essentially the aesthetically excited emotion. In other words, no emotion is called Rasa unless it is aesthetically excited. And we learned the 9 Rasas, or we are familiar with the terms associated with the 9 Rasas. They are Shringaram, Veeram, Karunam, Raudram, Hasyam, Bhayanagam, Bhibalsam, Albudam and Shantam. Even before becoming Rasa, the emotions existed in a permanent manner in human beings, and that is known as bhava. And these are sthayi bhavas. These are permanent emotions existing in our psychology. As the word suggests, sthayi bhavas are permanent bhavas or emotions. And when you go to certain literary pieces, Anand Neelakantan in his novel Asura, The Tale of Vanquished, on Ravana, states that Ravana's 9 additional heads stand for the 9 emotions that make him a human being, not a demon. These primary emotions are amorous, ludicrous, the pathetic, the heroic, the passionate, the fearful, the nauseating and wondrous. So I have listed only 8 emotions, 8 bhavas. Other aesthetic psychologists have in the later times added to them the peaceful or the intellectual, the devotional and the filial. These sthayi bhavas exist in the mind in a permanent fashion and will be aroused by internal or external pressures. And before we further move on to the discussion on Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava and sthayi bhavas, we have to watch a video. And
Coffee. Excuse me. Hello. Yeah, who's with the patient? Achan. Okay. Enna mola. Achan, ഒന്നുമില്ലേ?
എനിക്ക് വിശ്വാസം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ വിളിച്ച അച്ഛൻ എന്തായാലും വരുമെന്ന്.
എത്തിയല്ലേ? കൺഗ്രാറ്റുലേഷൻസ്.
So, you have watched the video. This is a brief play in 2 minutes where you could see the passionate love between the father and the daughter, the amorous lovers who sacrifice the family for passion, ludicrous existence of the father when the daughter broke his respectability in the society, the pathetic state of the man and his daughter by the pangs of separation, the nauseating behavior of the father when he saw his daughter at the bus stop, wonder in the daughter and the son-in-law on the transformation of the father, all stretches into one ball in 2 minutes. What we saw was not an unrealistic depiction. They are the emotions manifested on a screen. No wonder it will create the polyphony of rasas. And what you have seen are sthayi bhavas. So sthayi bhavas are not only the bhavas existing in the psychology of the audience, but also the bhavas existing in the mind of the actors too. But what if these happen in real life? Can we call the father whose daughter eloped is said to be in Karunarasa? No, we can't. Only the aesthetically excited emotion can be called as rasa. So rasa is taking place on the stage where the actor and the mind of the receptive viewer lie. There will be nothing wrong if one assumes that T.S. Eliot has received the objective correlative from the Eastern Vibhava. Hope you remember Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari bhava. Vibhava is the objective condition producing an emotion. It can be of two types, Alambana Vibhava and Uddipana Vibhava. Alambana Vibhava means the persons with reference to whom the emotion is manifested. Uddipana means the external circumstances. And in the case of this art, the father, the daughter and the son-in-law can be taken as Alambana Vibhavas, and the Uddipana Vibhavas may be the pregnancy and the rain, the lightning and the helplessness of the daughter. And Anubhava means the bodily manifestation of the emotions. Here, the parting gesture of the hand separation, the hug of reunion, and the bodily manifestation of the anxiety of the husband can be conceived as Anubhavas. Vyabhichari bhava, which is otherwise known as Sanchari bhava, are the diverse emotions that strengthen the dominant emotion. Here, the feeling of the loss, the disappointment on losing the child, the regain, the satisfaction by the restoration of the ties, the remembrance of the pleasure, all formed the Vyabhichari bhavas. Now comes the real problem makers, and there are two problem makers in the Rasa Sutra. They are Samyoga and Rasa Nishpati. These two terms are very problem-making terms. Samyoga and Rasa Nishpati. The diverse explanations did not make Rasa Sutra shallow or inauthentic, and it has got diverse explanations. Interestingly, these disagreements due to the vagueness of Bharata's explanation was what smoothens the transfer of the aesthetic emotion Rasa to the aesthetic philosophy Rasa. Now, let's dig deeper into Nishpati. Above Rasa Nishpati, in the case of Rasa Nishpati, the explanations are oriented towards the actor, the receptor, and on both. Here we have to remember a few names. The prominent name that we have to remember in any discussion on Rasa is that of Abhinavagupta. Then there are a few more names. The names are Pattalollada, Shamkuga, Pattanayaka, and Pattadauda. They are a few notable figures in this regard. So first of all, let's begin with Pattalollada's view. And Pattalollada's view or theory is known as Utpattivada. Pattalollada held the view that the Vibhava, Anubhava and Vibhijari Bhava unites with Sai Bhavas in the mind to form Rasa. This happens in this way. Vibhava through affiliation with Sai Bhava produces Rasa. Anubhava or on union expresses it, and Vibhijari strengthens the expressed emotions. One manifests, the other expresses, and the third just strengthens it. The input of Vibhava, Anubhava and Vibhijari can be through dramatization or mime. Rasa, according to him, lies in the character. And then comes another thinker, his name is Mammada, and Mammada has written his seminal work. The work was titled as Kavya Prakasham, and he denied the validity of this theory of Pattalollada by questioning the view that the relationship between Vibhava and Rasa was that of the producer and produced, or cause and effect. Rasa and Vibhava cannot be the effect and the cause, since the effect Rasa cannot survive the destruction of the cause or Nimitta Karana. Also, Vibhava is no agent that transfers the Rasa of the character, as Rasa has no existence other than what it has at the time of performance. Thus, he argues that Pattalollada's theory is incompetent to explain Rasa Nishpati. Then comes Shankuga's Anumitivada. Now I will show you a painting. Identify the person. Who is in the picture? Of the painter Raja Ravivarma? You will say it is Damayanti. And if I ask you once again, is it Damayanti? Perhaps you may answer that it is the model of Damayanti. Okay, agreed. It may be Damayanti. Next, I will show you another picture. See, what is this? And that's a horse, you will react. Okay, then can you feed this horse? No. How can we feed this horse? This is not a real horse. Earlier you said that this is a horse. Now you are saying that this is not a horse. Why? It is a painted horse. The moment when we see it initially, we won't think about its distance from the real. But since we can call it a cat, as long as it has the appearance of the horse, it is a horse. Similar is the aesthetic experience. Shankuga says it is both real and unreal. Next comes Pattanayaka. Pattanayaka's view is known as Puktivadam. Pattanayaka introduced two concepts. These concepts are known as Bhavakatva and Pojakatva. The special function of the aesthetic creation to generate the spiritual function in the mind of the listener and the function of the individual mind that makes him capable of enjoying it respectively. So these two functions are bhavagatva and bhojagatva. Bhavagatva lies with the aesthetic presentation and bhojagatva lies with the audience. With the aid of these functions, Rasa Nishpati can be achieved. He has given the title Universalization to the state achieved through bhojagatva. Next comes Pattadauda, and Pattadauda's theory has got the title Anuvyavasayavada. Pattadauda is a thinker who held the view that Rasa is purely appreciation oriented and hence it takes place in the mind of the viewer. This happens through the music and settings along with acting. Thus the mind of Sahridaya is alienated or released from the worldly wisdom of recognition of the actor and discard the impossibility of the actors becoming the character. Thus being cut off from the connection on both sides, from the impossibility of Amitabh Bachchan in becoming Manju Varyar's father and the recognition of Manju and Amitabh as characters with different names, a special suggestion works. This is the way how Rasa Nishpati is achieved. Resultantly, the mind will be accelerated and the memories of the audience experience will be lightened up. Then happens the affiliation, the appreciation and the integration, and finally there occurs the aesthetic enjoyment. So this is a refined version of Pattanayaka's view. Hope you remember Pattanayaka's view. Next comes the prominent thinker Abhinavagupta, and Abhinavagupta's view is Abhivyaktivadam. Most of Abhinavagupta's views are expressed in Abhinava Bharati and Dhvanyalocanam. Rasa for him is the suggestive relationship between Sthayi and Vibhavanubhava. Rasa is transcendental or alaukika. Rasa Swadhana or Rasana has a few steps according to Abhinavagupta. Firstly, Sahridaya will get the meaning that enables him to have the aesthetic enjoyment, or the presented whole through suggestion will lead to appreciation or implicit recognition. Then the actual temporal character of the actors will be forgotten, and along with that the ego of the spectator will be gone. And this is a point to be noted. The ego of the spectator is to be gone. Thus, a universal state, Sadharanikarana, is achieved. So, the viewer is transported to a transpersonal level where the bliss or nirvana is possible. This is why there is a kinship among all art enjoyers. In this way, Chamatkara or Rasa Swadhana, which is nothing less than the pleasure, takes place. Two views on universalization is worthy of consideration now. Why there is difference in enjoyment? This is yet another question that can be answered with this discussion on universalization. Aesthetic composition suggests an aesthetic situation devoid of local characters. So the presented emotion will be universal. There occurs a universal manifestation of aesthetic emotion in different minds. That comes the second thing. But when they mingle with emotio-motive complexes which are different from person to person, there will be variations in the enjoyment. That is why some people like certain films or certain plays, and some people do not like certain plays or movies. But the result here is transcendental or alaugika or chamatkara. And Rasa is not connected with happiness, Rasa is not connected with sadness. That is why we can enjoy even tragedies. So there is no happiness or sadness in Rasa, but only pleasure. Chamatkara also refers to the mind's special attitude at the time of Rasana. It also denotes the bodily manifestation of Rasa. Thus we will live through the pure sentiment. this view is still considered as the unchallenged gospel of Indian aesthetics. And now we have to consider what is Rasa to the West. And when you analyze the theories of I.A. Richards, his theories on stimuli are similar to the idea of vibhava and anubhava. And there was a prominent theory on plays, or there was a prominent theory on tragedies that was proposed by Aristotle. And we are familiar with Aristotle's concept of catharsis. And how is Rasa related to Aristotle's concepts on tragedy? This is what we are considering next. Bharata and Aristotle lived around 400 to 200 BC, shared the view that dramatic performance is an imitation of an action. But in the aim of watching play, they differ from each other. Catharsis stood for purifying the emotion of the audience in view of making him free. That is purification. Rasa held up the position to build up the emotion to maximum height to enjoy the transcendental pleasures. This is basically the maker of Eastern and Western philosophies. So, Eastern aesthetic philosophy is constructive. We have to learn it and we have to learn from it. And now I will present before you some good references, and we being Malayalis, we can understand theory even if it is written in Malayalam too. So, first of all I will present before you a book that is titled as Vishwa Sahitya Darshanangal, written by Dr. Nellikal Muralidharan. And the next is Bharatiya Kavyashastram by Dr. T. Bhaskaran. And then there is a Cambridge Guide to Asian Theatre that is also helpful. And then if you like to move further, there are certain books that connect Western with Eastern theories. One is I.A. Richards and Indian Theory of Rasa, and another thing T.S. Eliot's Critical Essays and Approach from Indian Aesthetics. So, thank you, thanks for listening, have a nice day.